Lori and I got to go together.
Oh, nice.
It was a time.
It was a time. If they did Southport very well, we're done.
Testing.
Golden stars for everybody.
We will plan.
Testing.
Oh, there we go. That should do it. Oh, you can.
Good afternoon. The City of Southport Board of Aldermen, August 13th, 2026 meeting is now called to order. Thank you to those in attendance, citizens to city staff, and those watching remotely. We welcome to everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome back and to call on Reverend Alderman Lowe Davis to give our invocation. This will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Don't start bowing your heads just yet. Tonight, this invocation is a prayer that may be familiar to many of you. It's been used as a poem, as a prayer, and as a hymn for centuries. In fact, it first appeared in print in English in a Book of the Hours published in 1514. The very fact that this prayer has been in such frequent use all these many years is evidence, I think, of how profound and powerful it has been and can be to directly request God's presence. So now, let us pray. God be in our heads and in our understanding. God be in our eyes and in our looking. God be in our mouths and in our speaking. God be in our hearts and in our thinking. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America.
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Alderman Davis. That was a beautiful prayer. Think about what comes out of our mouth and our hearts and our thinking. Beautiful. The next item on the agenda, item D, is public comment. It's a 3-minute limit. Make sure the microphone is on. State your name, address, and your topic. Madam Clerk.
Brian McDonald.
I'm Brian McDonald, 5203 White Ibis Court in Harbor Oaks. And last month I was perplexed when the aldermen voted to make Jerry Rivenbark a member of Southport's Board of Adjustment after postponing due to outstanding code violation concerns. Even more perplexing were some of the outlandish statements made, such as, "I'm not the police and I don't want to be involved in a neighbor's dispute," or "This was just a neighbor being upset about a farm truck on his property," or "It's Jerry's property and he can do whatever he wants on it," or "I don't know anything about DEQ violations." The City of Southport UDO Article 3 zoning states no land within the city shall be developed except in accordance with the zoning district use and development standards. For more than 3 years, Rivenbark has acted as if the UDO does not apply to him. Despite receiving a number of citations over the years, it appears that he has not been held accountable or forced to pay any of the fines that have been levied against him. This is in no way a squabble with a neighbor issue. It's a much bigger issue than some of our city officials would have you believe. Rivenbark has been treating his 2.8 acre residential zone property as if it is zoned as H1 heavy industrial district, a district designed for commercial warehousing and industrial uses, and is negatively impacting the 11 other residential properties that surround him. He's also built a 14-foot high earthen berm around the property to try to hide his many violations. What does this have to do with his appointment to the Board of Adjustment? Well, the Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial board that handles zoning appeals, special use permits, and variance requests. A person who woefully violates city and state ordinances is not someone who should be a member of the Board of the Adjustment. Such a person represents a big conflict of interest and is a liability of the city of Southport and its citizens. Following is a list of violations that were sent to city officials and aldermen prior to the last month's vote. Rivenbark relocated his heavy industrial business to his residential zone property. He is still in violation with 2 backhoes, a roller, and 2 storage containers remaining, as they were during the meeting when our building and zoning director proclaimed that Rivenbark was now in compliance. Removed over 100 trees without a permit or survey, received a state violation for not obtaining the required DEQ permit or providing project erosion and sediment control plans. The North Carolina Licensing Board of General Contractors does not list him as ever being granted a contractor's license. The expired one he listed appears to be his late father's actual license. He was caught washing his dump truck and watering his property from a Southport fire hydrant on different occasions. I've been told that city management, the police chief, and fire chief were all alerted to this. This looks like a case of the good old boy network, and now it's part of the public record. You can do better, and you should. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
I have an email I'm going to read. Dear Mayor and members of the Board of Aldermen, as a resident, I respectfully request that the Board of Aldermen vote against or table the proposed backyard chicken ordinance until the city has completed additional planning, public review, and objective enforcement standards. The recent interest in backyard chickens reflects a desire for homegrown food and a simpler lifestyle. However, before adopting this ordinance, I believe several important issues deserve further consideration. Many Southport neighborhoods contain small residential lots, some only 33 feet wide. Backyard chickens could place noise or odor, flies, predators, and other impacts much closer to neighboring homes. Chicken manure can create a public health and sanitation concerns if not properly managed. While Section 9 generally addresses sanitation, noise, and manure accumulation, the current ordinance and UDO do not provide objective standards for code enforcement. This could lead to inconsistent enforcement, increased staff workload, and additional city expenses. The proposed should also be evaluated for consistency with the Southport 2050 Comprehensive Plan, particularly its goals of preserving the character of established residential neighborhoods. Thank you for considering these comments. I respectfully ask that you vote against this ordinance or table it until additional planning, objective enforcement standards, and comprehensive plan consistency have been fully evaluated. Respectfully, Maria Horton. And she was at 414 Burlington Avenue.
Thank you.
I
Next
have
speaker.
Michelle Henry.
Hello, my name is Michelle Henry. I live at 5021 Orlock Court in River Mist. I moved here about a year and a half ago to take care of my parents, and I just want to just shout out to the EMS staff. They're amazing. Both of my parents needed care, and they not only respond so quickly on the phone and so calmly, but they just arrive and just make everything better. And I just appreciate them. I know that I appreciate the city of Southport for allotting some of the money from our taxes to go to the services, because I hope you don't need it, but it is so great when you do need it that it's there. And I appreciate them so much. I've used them in the last 2 weeks twice for my mom, and they arrived, and I always feel bad about calling them because, you know, but they never make me feel bad. I always feel, is this serious enough to go to the hospital? But they always make me feel like I did the right thing. And they also make me feel like family. They're such a community of people, and I just appreciate them so much. I don't usually leave the house because I'm always watching my mom, but I had to get someone to watch her so I could come and tell you just how grateful I am for that service. It really is astounding for a small city like Southport to have such a luxury to be able to call and get immediate attention. So like I said, I hope you don't have to use them, but if you do, you're lucky you're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Good evening. I am Carolyn Tabarini. I live in Cades Cove at 501 Lord Thomas Avenue. I am writing in regards that our HOA board and residents continue to pursue a gate. We have made our opposition to the gate, now being referred to as traffic control, known, along with our desire to see our stormwater system completely scoped and our roads completed, whether the Cades Cove HOA requests our roads to be taken over by the city of Southport or not. My husband and myself have resigned ourselves that the Cades Cove HOA will continue to pursue privatization, even though the city has stated whether or not we meet at this time. Our inquiries to our board have nothing to do with our opposition to privatization. We are, however, concerned about legal risk and had hoped that the Cades Cove HOA board could provide assurance that the Cades Cove HOA board has done its utmost to mitigate any future risk or litigation. We feel as if our inquiries have not been addressed sufficiently by our HOA board before they proceeded with putting out an electronic vote. That vote, which ended on August 5th, came out in support of pursuing gate traffic control. The inquiries were made previously were as follows. 1, zoning and PUD compliance. Because Cades Cove is a master plan PUD bound by the City of Southport's Unified Development Ordinance, The Board of Aldermen's previous denial of a gate remains the standing municipal ruling. What specific legal mechanisms or authority is the Cades Cove HOA relying on to install a gate without violating our existing unaltered PUD agreement? 2, public rights of way and street dedication. Our community's recorded plat explicitly mandates a public right of way on Cades Cove streets. Cades Cove HOA has formally done a withdrawal of dedication as the time expired. While the city has not yet accepted these roads into their municipal maintenance system, they remain public rights of ways and open to the public vehicular traffic. What is the legal mechanism the Cades Cove HOA board intends to legally bypass the restrictions against obstruction of public right-of-way passage? 3, has the Cades Cove HOA board obtained a written legal opinion addressing the effect of the recorded plats, the public right-of-way designations, the PUD approval, and applicable North Carolina law? We are concerned that the vote bypasses critical legal, jurisdictional, and planning hurdles. Since a PUD is legally binding contract with the city and an HOA cannot alter the physical layout, traffic patterns, or entry points of a PUD without a formal amendment approved by the City of Southport Board of Aldermen, it appears that proceeding with this constitutes a zoning violation, North Carolina General Statute 136-96, leaving our community open.
All right, thank you. Our next speaker, Madam Clerk.
Charlie Hess.
Hi, I'm Charlie Hess, and I'm a resident of Southport Way Community, 4459 Willow Moss Way, Robert Rourke, just off of Robert Rourke State Road, across the street from Cades Cove Community. I appreciate Mayor Hayden and the Honorable Alderman for allowing me time to share not only my concerns, but that of many others in our community over the signage and now potential gate that is being proposed to close off the entrance into the Cades Cove community from Robert Rourke Road. Our biggest concern is that the only outlet of all of Robert Rourke Road, dead end community, is a stoplight at intersection Highway 211 Howell Street, which is continuing to be a major challenge with the poor infrastructure, heavy traffic, and potential blockages, all related to Southport's ongoing and overwhelming growth. To my knowledge, the Cades Cove development roads have been identified as public right-of-ways on a city document since June of 2007. But now we are being told that it is a private road based on the new signage Cades Cove has posted at each entry of the development. Is this true? When did this change, and where is it written in our city's documents? By maintaining the current access through Cades Cove with no gate, it allows an alternative emergency route to 9th Street, the hospital, and other needed services. When, for whatever reason, the intersection of Robert Rourke Road, Highway 211, Howell Street is blocked. Hopefully, the Cades Cove HOA will consider the impact to their fellow neighbors and reconsider holding off on the gate until other roads infrastructures are in place to accommodate a secondary exit. We do not want anyone dealing with a safety or emergency situation to become trapped on Robert Rourke. We all need to be good stewards of our neighborhood, of our neighbors and our residents. Thanks for letting me have these comments. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Good evening. My name is Bernie Tabarini, and I reside in Cades Cove at 501 Lord Thomas Avenue. The Cades Cove HOA Board has repeatedly stated that they have had meetings with city staff regarding installation of a gate, and they have stated the city staff asked our board to conduct a vote, and the city would work with us to make what we desire possible. No meeting minutes of these meetings were shared with our residents. My wife and I wrote to the Southport City Manager with copies to the aldermen and other city staff asking for clarification of what our HOA has been told in these meetings. The city manager responded outlining what was stated, and that included the HOA's position is that they believe the roads are private and has the authority to install a gate. However, I have made it clear that any proposal to install a gate would require approval by the Board of Aldermen. The approved plan unit development, PUD, zoning, and plat map for Cades Cove did not include a gate entrance, and the roads were dedicated public. Adding a gate would require an amendment to the approved PUD and action by the Board of Aldermen. At a previous requested meeting with the city manager, city engineer, aldermen, and Cades Cove residents, it was also stated, regardless of ownership, the infrastructure must be brought up to acceptable standard to ensure it functions properly and serves the community for years to come. This was restated in the response above from our city manager on July 29th, 2026. At our community meeting on July 23rd, 2026, prior to the vote, it was made clear from the stormwater scoping in phase 1 that our stormwater system being fixed should be of top priority. The failure of stormwater system is due to the improper installation of plastic pipe rather than traffic. The Cades Cove HOA board has decided to only repair certain parts, not the scope, the entire stormwater system, and do the final paving of our roads where the stormwater system has not been scoped. Given the advice from the city manager and city engineer, what is the liability of our residents if Cades Cove does not comply with bringing our roads and stormwater system to the standards already shared with our HOA board, whether our roads are private or not? Thank you, Bernard Tabarini, 501 Cades Cove. Lord Thomas Avenue, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Bill Fitzgerald.
How you doing? I'm Bill Fitzgerald. I live in 729 North Atlantic Avenue. I want to begin by making something very clear. We're not here because we oppose local business, live music, entertainment, or people enjoying Southport. We understand businesses are an important part of the community, and we have made a genuine effort to coexist with the establishment respectfully, talking about the Tiki Tavern. What we're asking for is equally reasonable, the right to peacefully enjoy our homes. The problem we are experiencing is no longer occasional noise associated with neighboring business. It has become a repeated, ongoing disturbance. Residents are dealing with loud outdoor bands, amplified music, indoor DJs that can still be clearly heard from surrounding homes. Shouting and excessive noise from patrons leaving the establishment, loud trucks, cars, and motorcycles, and most concerning, incidents of fighting, disorder occurring immediately outside of the residential neighborhoods. There is an enormous difference between reasonable sound coming from a nearby business and entertainment that effectively extends the atmosphere of a bar into someone's living room, bedroom, porch, and yard. Our homes should not become an extension of a bar's entertainment space. Southport already recognizes the excessive noise has limits. The city's noise regulations address noise that carries beyond the property where it originates, and Southport states that outdoor quiet hours are between 8 p.m. and 7 a.m. In fact, the issue is not new to Southport. City officials have previously discussed outdoor music from businesses creating a nuisance for adjacent residents and acknowledged that police can determine when those conditions violate the city's noise provisions. We've attempted to approach this business respectfully. We have tried understanding. Repeated complaints and conversations have not resulted in a meaningful or lasting reduction in the disturbances. At some point, asking neighboring residents to simply tolerate more noise is not a solution. We're asking the city business owner and management to establish reasonable enforceable protections for the surrounding residential neighborhood. That should include appropriate limits on amplified outdoor entertainment, firm evening cutoff times, speakers and stages positioned away from residences, reasonable control of bass, subwoofers, keeping indoor amplified music contained inside the building, appropriate management of patrons as they leave the premises, and meaningful enforcement when repeated violations occur. We also believe Southport should seriously consider adopting an objective sound level standards measured at near or affected the residential property line. So residents, businesses, and law enforcement all know exactly where the line is. The city itself discussed the possibility of adding measurable decibel standards in 2026. This should not require residents to call repeatedly night after night and then start all over again the following weekend. Residents should not have to call the police repeatedly every weekend to obtain a peaceful use of their own home. We support local businesses.
Thank you. Thank you. The 3 minutes. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Board of Aldermen. While I am unable to be there tonight due to a long-standing prior commitment, I wanted to drop a note asking for your support of a moratorium on data centers being built in Southport while the planning board, working with our planning director, Mo Meehan, develops a comprehensive unified development ordinance governing data centers. A well-thought-out unified development ordinance ensures that Southport's long-term community vision is developed with the goal of protecting our community's health, safety, and general welfare through establishing regulations that protect neighborhoods, businesses, and the environment. Data centers are a new type of business with complicated requirements that in turn require a complicated unified development ordinance to protect the public. There are concerns that include water usage, power usage, noise that can impact a wide area, night lighting, wastewater, air quality, and so on. Think about how a cotton mill of the late 1800s, with many of those same concerns mentioned above, would fit into a neighborhood today. And instead of producing cotton, it produces data, but with the same types of potential negative impacts on a neighborhood and more. When creating a draft ordinance, it's not unusual to spend time researching other communities to learn how similar ordinances are drafted, and the planning board has made good progress in developing our initial draft. However, after casting a wide net within Brunswick County, we found that an ideal unified development ordinance does not exist locally, and while those drafted may fit the aspects of a particular community, none in their entirety would be a good fit for Southport. While we are doubtful that a hyperscale data center would find available space in Southport proper, our research has indicated that there is now a shift and a smaller scale facilities are beginning to be developed. Rolling out a unified development ordinance now would all but ensure that it would not be comprehensive enough to protect the citizens of Southport. As we further develop our data centers UDO, our intent is to take a regional approach with other Brunswick County communities to see if there is an opportunity to exchange ideas as well as research, which in turn will help us, each of us, tailor a UDO that best meets the needs of each of our communities. Because data centers are a new and growing business that have potential to negativity impact the community of Southport, and because the newness requires research into various nuisance of any operational data center, it's essential that the Board of Aldermen act on this unanimous recommendation of the Planning Board and establish a 15-month moratorium on data centers. Lastly, given the proximity of Duke Energy and the property located in the county that abuts Southport, which has been zoned to allow the siting of a data center, it is essential that the county be encouraged to develop their own UDO that would protect the citizens of Southport who live on the eastern side of our city. Thank you, Larry Ashley, Chair, Southport.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
That's all I have.
That's all who signed up to speak. That's it. Okay.
Nobody else has
All
signed
right,
up.
great, thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is the ethics statement, item E. If any members know of any conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest concerning matters on the agenda, please so state at this time. Any conflict, board? Okay, I have one conflict. There's one item in closed session that I will not be sitting in on, but otherwise no other conflict. Item F is approval of the agenda. Okay. We have a motion by Alderman Mosteller and a second by Alderman Carroll. Now for our citizens, those watching and those here, just briefly, the first item on the agenda will be the golf cart ordinance. There are 3 public hearings, 2 on 1501 North House Street for annexation and rezoning. The board will conduct the required public hearing and consider the adoption of the ordinance in that regard. We also have a Turtle Bay final plat. We have data centers request for a moratorium. We have the artificial intelligence software discussion, and then we have the update on the Wilmington Harbor 403 project. We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? A motion carried. Thank you. Approval of the consent agenda. On the consent agenda briefly, we have the HPC ordinance repeal. This is an ordinance amending the code of ordinance to conform to the session law, Senate Bill 876, repealing the Historic Preservation Commission provisions. The Board of Aldermen finds it necessary and appropriate to amend the city code to conform with state law. Item 2 is the approval of the minutes. There are 3 meetings from 2025 and 3 from 2026. Item 3 is a paving contract. Paving streets improves safety, enhances accessibility, and strengthens neighborhood connectivity. So the contract is not to exceed $495,000. This company has been awarded a contract, 3.2 miles, by Highland Paving. And some of the streets that will be paved are Park Avenue, East 11th Street, Dutchman Creek Road, Spike Rush Road, and Indigo. Item 4 is fiscal year 27. There are 3 budget amendments. One is for the money is already there to complete the payment on an ambulance. I call the second budget amendment the good news amendment because this is the appropriation of additional fire fee revenue. They've increased the fire fee by 25%, approved by the legislature and adopted by Brunswick County Board of Commissioners. So the fire fee increase for the Southport District is $567,950. So this will reduce the amount of fund balance originally appropriated for these expenditures. So there'll be a decrease of the debt service from $721,535 to $153,585. So that, as I say, is a good news budget amendment. And then a budget amendment on the number 3 is for the old City Hall courthouse. This budget amendment reappropriates funds that had already been appropriated. There's some additional work that needs to be completed in the design process. So that's what that money is for. Item 5 is a resolution. It's in support for the preparation of an environmental impact statement for NCDOT project HB 0039, the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge replacement, and supporting the city of Wilmington and other lower Cape Fear communities and seeking a comprehensive regional environmental review. So that's very important. Item 6 is the clerk's letter of sufficiency for 1501 North House Street for the annexation process. And item 7 is the community building handrail replacement contract. There are pictures in there showing these railings that are quite rusted and need to be removed. And then, so we have a contract for that needs to be approved. And that's for $79,550 with Action Welding and Supply. So I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the consent agenda. We have a motion by Alderman Marsteller and a second by Alderman Kelly. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item H is special recognition, and we have 2 of those, and I will go up to the podium and read those. The first will be a forestry proclamation, and the second will be the 50th anniversary of Franklin Square Gallery. Southport, North Carolina celebrates America's 250th anniversary through its trees. Whereas the year 2026 being the 250th anniversary of the birth of the United States of America, the Southport Forestry Committee and City of Southport wish to commemorate this milestone through our signature live oaks in urban maritime forest. Southport's trees form an iconic part of our historic riverfront heritage on the Cape Fear. And our urban forest contains trees which have been here for centuries, as well as those that have been recently planted. Whereas Southport has multiple examples of public trees which have endured through the last 250 years, meaning that it is likely they stood in 1776 at the time of America's Declaration of Independence. The term for trees such as this is witness trees. By definition, a witness tree is a tree that stood through historically significant events in the United States and thus serve as living connections to the past. The tree was present during a major historical or cultural event in America, effectively witnessing history unfold. These trees are often centuries old and hold both historical and biological importance. Witness trees are valued not only for their longevity, but also for their role as living monuments to history. There are approximately a dozen public trees throughout Southport whose estimated age is greater than 250 years, according to data collected by the Forestry Committee. To recognize these trees collectively, the committee has selected the finest example to represent Southport as its America 250th tree, recognizing the fact that this tree stood at the birth of our nation and has since endured to today, providing beauty and a variety of benefits to our fair city. That tree is the live oak located at 305 North Atlantic Avenue. With a DBH of 70 inches, it is estimated that this tree is approximately 275 years old, meaning it not only witnessed the birth of America, but has also stood from Southport's incorporation in 1792 to today. It heard the growing whisper of women resisting taxation without representation in the adoption of the 1774 Edenton Resolves and the distant sound of guns at the February 1776 Battle of Moores Creek, solidifying the Patriot power in the colony. And it stood proud at North Carolina's being the first colony to commit a vote for independence in the historic April 1776 Halifax Resolves. The tree has been a witness to history, the history of our nation, as well as our own history here in Southport. It has grown to its current stately condition, much as Southport has grown into the city we are all fortunate enough to live in today. Whereas the Forestry Committee would like to look to the future, the next 250 years, and recognize 6 of the live oaks that were planted in this anniversary year of 2026. These 6 trees were planted in Franklin Square Park, the green jewel in the center of our fair city. Our hope as we planted these trees, knowing that we will not be here to see them to maturity, was that they will flourish and witness the next 250 years of our city and indeed our nation. Therefore, the Forestry Committee and the City of Southport recognizes these 7 trees as our official America 250th trees to be recorded and treasured as representatives of our citizens and natural environment, looking back at the past 250 years as well as to the future and the next 250 years. Witness thereof this day in Southport, the 13th of August, 2026. Fred, if you'll come up, we'll get a picture. Forestry Committee has been a welcome addition to our community and what they have done to uplift our tree canopy has been marvelous. We always enjoy Arbor Day, and this is one more way, a very clever way to celebrate our 250th. So thank you. The next proclamation is celebrating the 50th anniversary of Franklin Square Gallery. Whereas our nation celebrates its 250th anniversary, the Associated Artists of Southport proudly celebrates a milestone of its own, 50 years of making and sharing art in Franklin Square Gallery. And whereas the historic building at 130 East West Street has served the Southport community since 1904 in many roles, including as Brunswick County's first public graded school, city hall, a community center, public library, and since 1976, the home of the Associated Artists of Southport. And whereas for the past 50 years, the Associated Artists of Southport has faithfully preserved this treasured landmark while creating a welcoming home for painters, photographers, potters, sculptors, glass artists, and other creatives to exhibit and share their work. Whereas through exhibitions, workshops, educational programs, and community events, Franklin Square Gallery has enriched Southport's cultural life while celebrating the history, creativity, and community spirit that make our city special. Now, therefore, I, Dr. Joseph P. Hayden, Mayor of the City of Southport, on behalf of the Board of Aldermen, do hereby proclaim the celebration of the 50th anniversary of Franklin Square Gallery and extend our sincere congratulations and appreciation to the Associated Artists of Southport for 50 years of dedication to the arts, historic preservation, and the cultural enrichment of our community. Is anyone here from the arts? Here we go. There you are. So their celebration will be, I believe it's August 23rd. Is that correct? From 1 to 4. So it'll be a marvelous time. So thank y'all, and what a great milestone. When I read that it said that building had been used as a grade school, I wanted to say Alderman Davis and I attended school there. That is a great building, and I'm so glad that the Associated Artists have it. Next up on our agenda is the golf cart ordinance update, and I will call on our city clerk, Tori Davini.
Where's the beginning? Yeah. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. Tonight, I'm bringing forward several proposed amendments to Section 17-80 of the code regarding golf carts. As we've worked through several of the existing ordinances, we've identified several areas where the language needed to be updated or clarified. Some of these changes are fairly minor housekeeping items, while others address safety, enforcement, and consistency with the North Carolina law. Let's see. So the overall goal here is pretty straightforward. We just need to improve the public safety portion of it, make sure the ordinance is consistent with the North Carolina law, bring some of the language in line with how we actually operate, and give our police department a clear and enforceable standards when their violations occur. This isn't intended to make golf cart use unnecessarily complicated. The goal is really just the opposite, to make sure it's clear for everybody, for our staff, our visitors, and the law enforcement. So currently, our regulation is you must be 18 years of age to operate a golf cart. With an exception, you can have a medical or physical exemption card. The medical certification stating that you can safely operate a golf cart, and a North Carolina identification card. That is how our ordinance reads currently. And with the proposed ordinance, we're going to bring it back into the state law because, oh my gosh, this is so slow, I'm sorry. We're changing it to 16 years of age, and you have to hold a valid driver's license. No person less than 16 years of age may operate a golf cart on a public street, road, or highway. State law says that you can be 16 and operate a golf cart. I know that we've moved it up to 18 in the past to try to make it a little bit safer for our community. But with that being said, if the state says that you can drive a vehicle at 16, you should be able to drive a golf cart at 16. It also makes it a little bit easier for law enforcement to be able to pull you over, as if when they're going down the street and it's hard to distinguish between a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old. So this just, it's basic 16-year-old, anybody that looks like that, they could pull them over if they needed to. Hold on. My slides got messed up. The next one we're going to change is the horn. Currently, it just states air horn. This is a fairly simple modernization. We just want to say air horn or any other audible warning device. This just maintains the safety requirement without unnecessarily requiring a particular type of horn. The next one we're doing is we're adding registration stickers. We're just clarifying that the city golf cart registration stickers are non-transferable and become void when ownership of the golf cart changes. This means a new owner needs to go through the city's registration process rather than simply continuing to use the previous owner's sticker. That also gives us an opportunity to make sure our ownership and insurance information is current. Let's see. The next one, again, is just that changing it from 18 to 16. It just brings it into compliance with the NC General Statute 20-7, which is a state law. Let's see. The next one is the seating capacity. The current ordinance references seating capacity with seat belts. We're proposing clearer language stating that the occupancy cannot exceed the number of factory installed or approved seating positions. In plain language, it's every person needs an actual seat. We're trying to eliminate the situations where someone's sitting on another person's lap or they're squeezing somebody in. This wasn't an area that was designed for an actual seat. You know, everybody's leaving the bars at night trying to get everybody squeezed in on that golf cart. Let's see, operation on the roadway. Currently, our ordinance reads that all golf carts are to be onto the right side of the road. However, we want golf carts to operate safely without unnecessarily impeding traffic. The proposed language requires operators, when safe and practicable, to pull over and allow accumulated traffic to pass. The important words here are safe and practicable. I can't say it. We aren't asking for anyone to pull off the road when it's not safe. We're just saying if you have a line of cars behind you and you find a little gap that you can pull over, stop and allow cars. This just allows traffic to go smoothly and safely and not have everybody. And you can kind of see that picture where if somebody's on the right side of the road, a car turning won't be able to see. And it's a lot of accidents that happen that way. Our next ordinance is going to be the alcohol and impairing substances. This amendment strengthens and clarifies the language according to alcohol and impairing substances. The proposed ordinance makes it clear that a person may not operate a golf cart while under the influence of alcohol, a controlled substance, or any other impairing substances. It also prohibits open containers, the consumption of alcohol or illegal substances by the operator or passengers while in the golf cart. And the explanation is just don't do it. Easy peasy. Our next one is going to be commercial use. This is another change that I want to point out because we're changing the approach rather than simply adding another item. Currently, our ordinance states that you can't use a golf cart for commercial uses. However, we do have a lot of for-hire tours, golf cart rental tours throughout the city, and we're basically breaking the ordinance. So what we have proposed is a golf cart may be used for the commercial transportation of passengers only if the operator and vehicle have obtained all permits, licenses, and approvals required by the code, including any for-hire term like tour permit, and otherwise comply with all applicable federal, state, and North Carolina laws and regulations. This just gives the city some flexibility. We're not saying anyone can't start a commercially owned golf cart transportation. We're just saying if you do, you have to have the right permits to be able to do so. And again, it just allows for the for-hire tours or any other commercial business. No guessing games, just show your proof of insurance. This one is, oh, my picture finally came up. Oh my God, please stay on. All right, well, it's not showing up there. But also we've added proof of insurance. That was not from the bar. Or if it was, I won't tell. But we're adding proof of insurance to actually be carried on the golf cart and be produced upon request of a law enforcement officer. It just makes it easier for him to know if you are actually have insurance on the car. I mean, on the cart. And that's all I got finally. And here we go again, starting over. Questions. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have. I know I'm not a police officer, but I have been thoroughly briefed by Lieutenant Major Burgess, and I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn, but I did stay at the Beaufort Inn this weekend. So I got all the questions.
My main question is the age of 16 instead of 18.
Yes.
Now, the state allows 16, but by state law, we can't be less than the state, but we can be more.
That's correct.
I don't understand why we think that 16-year-olds should be driving a golf cart. Quite different from a car. I mean, a car, even if it's a convertible, has protection on the sides. Golf carts are wide open, and there's a big difference between 16 years old and 18 years old. And, brain development, maturity. I don't think I can support this ordinance. The police are okay with this. This is past muster with them.
Yes, ma'am. They feel as if state law says that you can be 16 and drive a vehicle, and a golf cart is qualified as a vehicle per state law. So therefore, they feel that this is best.
It's a motor vehicle, yes, but it's quite different from cars or trucks or other motor vehicles. So I think this is asking for big problems because 16-year-olds will likely be having passengers who are 16. 50.
Right. And that is
14.
okay if you want to make it more stringent. The only thing really they're asking for is to remove the medical exempt card and say you have to have a valid license. So, but
So that's the trick. The key word here is that they've acquired a license to drive a car, learned all the traffic rules, passed the test, gone through that process, and you still don't feel like they're capable of driving a golf cart? That's, and the problem is you've only going to have 16 to 18 years old young people here. After 18, they're gone. So, if they're old enough to get a driver's license, they're old enough to drive a golf cart for sure.
I tend to agree with Alderman Spencer. I think, I don't know if this is me. Is it? Okay, better. North Carolina has a graduated driver's license. Is there something that we can add that perhaps says that we follow the graduated driver's license rules? So that could perhaps alleviate some of the concerns from other members of the board, because in North Carolina right now, Alderman Davis, you have to have completed driver's ed and all of the testing. You have to do a number of hours logged with a parent before you can even go and take a test for your driver's license. And then you have graduated driver's licenses where you're only allowed daytime driving at first, and only a passenger that is a direct family member, if I understand correctly. And then after 6 months, you can then go to nighttime driving. I mean, there's a graduated system there that is already in place in North Carolina. So I think that might perhaps assuage some of your concerns. But the bigger piece is, if somebody's 16, they can do a heck of a lot more damage in a car than they can do in a golf cart.
Thank you for
Okay.
bringing that to my attention. I did know.
There's no way I can support 16, I'll tell you, because you have to be 18 years old to get an unencumbered license. It's encumbered in some way until you're 18. The studies show that drivers age 16 and 17 have substantially higher crash involvement than drivers who are 18 and older. The AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety and the National Institutes for Health both find that drivers age 16 and 17 have nearly doubled the crash rate of drivers 18 and 19. So that's statistical information that reinforces this conversation. The bigger picture is, for me, is that as 18, you're an adult by state law, and that we have so much traffic and we have people that are not from here driving cars. I just think this is an unnecessary risk for 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds. I understand what y'all are saying. Yes, they've got a driver's license, but just having more experience as a driver, because a golf cart, you're making different kinds of decisions. And I mean, quite honestly, there are adults that I won't ride with in golf carts. So I'm not, I would rather I can support all the changes. I just am in favor of keeping the age at 18.
And to go back to Rebecca's, correct me, Brady, if I'm wrong, but a valid driver's license would also include like those restrictions of the drivers. So if they were not allowed to drive after 9, if they were pulled over, a law enforcement officer would be able to charge them with not following the law. So I think that is already stated with the valid driver's license, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd like to, I tend to agree with Rebecca and Mark Alderman. If the state of North Carolina says they can drive an 8,000-pound vehicle and they've met all the statutory requirements of training, practice, then they can drive a golf cart. And granddaughter Carly, I'm supporting you on this one.
We're talking about 25 miles an hour. We're not talking about 70 miles an hour on I-40. It's those statistics that you're coming up with are people out there going very fast, and we're in a very slow environment. So I think they're swayed, and so I'll stick with my 16-year-old.
Correction, it's only 20 miles an hour, not 25, 20.
Thank you.
Yeah, all I was gonna go and say is I wouldn't just go and assume it. I would suggest adding like a sentence in there that says, to the degree the board wants to go that direction, something along the lines of following the, restrictions that otherwise would apply to, regular driver's license.
And the restrictions are extreme. A touch of alcohol is an automatic withdrawal of license with those young folks and things of that nature. So it's under tight rules from 16 to 18 for sure. And again, I went through a year of riding with Levi and logs and things. It is not like when I got my license for sure.
And my only other concern that I want to bring up, and I know that you've spoken with the police department, the pulling over all the way to the right during the summer, there might not be an opportunity to pull back into traffic. Is my only concern about pulling off to the side to let traffic pass, because you might be stuck there the rest of the day coming into Southport.
So again, that's when it states only when practicable, my gosh, here we go again, and safe. So if you're not safe and you don't think they're going to be able to get back in line, stay put, hee-ho, just keep going, so.
I'd like to suggest that rather than making a decision tonight, I'd like to have Chief Coring here to answer questions, and anybody else in the department who directly deals with golf carts, and hear from them exactly how they view all of this. And I repeat that the fact that the state allows 16-year-olds to drive and obtain a license doesn't mean that we have to do it that way. We can keep 18 or make it 17, but I'd prefer 18.
So again, yes, ma'am. They were not able to be here tonight. Chief Coring was at another event. The Lieutenant Moore is at the filming, and Major Burgess is on vacation. However, they are the ones that brought this to me to propose and have briefed me on it with all their regulations that they wanted to see changed. So this is something that they want changed.
But they could talk very knowledgeably and perhaps persuasively about why they want.
As in the 16, the age? So again, it's because it follows state law. Now, if you want to change it to 18, that's fine. They understand that. But they're going off of what the law states, and that's what they want to follow.
So did they tell you, just one quick question, did they tell you how many golf cart accidents there were in Southport in the past year?
They did not.
So that would be something that you would want to know, and what ages and that type thing as well when you want to make a decision, about this.
I would just suggest that we bring back the language that Brady recommended for consideration as well.
And Brady's already seen this, so he's got his blessing on it, just by the way.
You mean the graduated license?
Yeah, I think in light of what Alderman Kelly suggested, we need language to support that recommendation.
I think this has been on our agenda since it was out. If we had further questions for the chief or the police department, we had opportunity to ask them, and you were fully briefed in order to answer most of the questions for us. So I think that was wonderful. Thank you for doing that. I think that the goal is to bring us into compliance here, and I think that we would be remiss to not bring the city into compliance at this time.
Is it necessary that we do this without that language that Brady recommended?
Brady hasn't recommended any language You're talking about the graduated
Alderman,
license from
correct.
Rebecca.
That was a it came across as a recommendation at least.
So yeah, certainly you can adopt it as is, amend it on the spot, or table it to next month and bring back other changes with the chief.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I move that we
I-
table decision until we have the opportunity to find out more, get the language clear, and to have Chief Coring here to answer further questions, that we table it until the September meeting.
Is there a second? Second by Alderman Mosteller. Any further discussion?
I just think that this is something that we can act on now. We've got it came from the police department. This was not something that a citizen brought up for us.
It is for discussion. It's not, but I think you owe it to yourself to take your recommendation and use the graduated concept, and we don't have that language. But that was your recommendation.
There's a motion on the table.
I believe to get a valid license, doesn't it already include taking into consideration the graduated requirements? You're not going to give you a license at 16 if you haven't met all the requirements. You may not get it till you're 17 or 17 and a half. So if you have a valid license, you've met all the requirements. There's no more graduation. There's no more classes.
There is. Yes, there is. There's a requirement after the fact, and that's what Alderman Kelly was mentioning. So, and it was Brady who recommended we have some type of language and not just make the assumption that it's included, correct?
Yeah, and well, we got a motion in a second, so that needs to get resolved. But I mean, to the degree that, I mean, I think you could also depend, if that motion failed or someone wants to take it off the table, you certainly can go and tell staff to work with the police department to get the language that reflects what we've been discussing. So it wouldn't have to go and come back if you guys wanted to go down that route. Just throwing that out there.
So we have a motion and a second to table and have the police department be here. Thanks. Yeah, so we're going to vote on the motion and the second. So if you're for the motion that was made to table this and have the police department here someone next time and to have them review our concerns or your concerns, all in favor? Okay, all opposed? Okay, motion did not carry. All right. So
Make a motion to accept this document with the changes and include, have staff work on the language from Brady for the 16 to 18. Yes, sir, insert that. As said by the manager.
I second the motion.
we have a motion in multiple seconds on the 16-year-old age with a graduated license, so they can drive the golf cart. We could maybe have them pick people up from the bars that night too to keep them safe. Right, Alderman Gross. All that booze you sell them, so it'll keep them safer. Yeah, is any discussion?
Yes, thank you. I just want to reiterate that the 16 and 17-year-old licenses, they have curfews, they have limits on passengers, non-family members. So we're creating an enforcement issue that you're going to have to discern whether or not the police are going to be stopping the young people, because I would, at my age, a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old don't look any different. So I don't know how they're going to discern a 16-year-old.
So is it within the graduated licensing requirements currently in the state? So
Correct.
Go to take that. The current motion is to include that. So
No, what I'm saying is that's my problem. That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't support 16 and 17-year-olds driving, is because we're not talking about an unrestricted license. That's part of the conversation, is enforcement, as well as just statistically, and I appreciate that it's a slower golf cart's slower, but think about the foot traffic we have and all the other traffic we have in town, our narrow streets. When you're a new driver, even if you've been through driver's ed and all that, golf carts are not the same. They don't have the crumple things. They don't have airbags. It's also a safety thing to me for 16 and 17-year-olds. So, I just.
Are we going to limit them on bicycles now too?
Well, you can be cute down there all you want, sir, but I am concerned about the health and safety of our citizens and our young people.
He's actually making a valid point. We've got these electric bicycles that are racing. And it's the same principle. And they're racing at 30, 40 miles an hour, and going through stop signs. And I've got a lot of phone calls on that. So, there's a lot of dangerous things that you can do. My mother wouldn't let me have one of those items. I had to ride a miniature tractor in the backyard. So it's all to each his own.
You're right, but we're talking only about golf carts.
Well, the police are already well versed in the graduated license and have to do that during a regular traffic stop anyway. So this is not something new that would be adding to their daily practice. That's what they already do.
Okay, any further discussion before we vote?
I'd just like to say that I like most everything in this ordinance, and I understand the rationale for all of it, except for the age difference. And I hate to vote against the entire ordinance because of this one provision, but I will.
Should we restrict drivers on the older side as well then, because they have a hard time seeing and might not see somebody crossing the street?
They do.
Oh, Lord, I'll never be able to drive again. My goodness, please, Alderman Kelly.
Can we call the vote, please?
Yes, I've been doing that, Alderman Gross. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? It's 4-2. Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is public hearing, and that concerns the annexation of 1501 North House Street. I declare this public hearing open. I call on City Clerk Tori Davini to begin the discussion.
Okay, good evening again, Mayor and members of the board. Before you tonight is a request for the voluntary annexation of a property located at 1501 North House Street. Let's see, they are requesting a voluntary annexation. The location is 1501. Parcel ID 221MA03302, and it's a little more or a little less than 1.422 acres. The owner is River Road Funding LLC. Currently the property is outside of the city's corporate limits. If annexed, it will become part of Ward 2, and it will be subject to applicable city ordinances, regulations, taxes, and the municipal services that we do offer. This is the guideline, the timeline. It kind of gives you an overview. We received the annexation petition on June 25th. The board then adopted a resolution directing me as city clerk to investigate the sufficiency of the petition. I completed that investigation and prepared the required certification of sufficiency, which was just approved on the consent agenda earlier. Following the determination, the public hearing was scheduled and then notices were provided. And that brings us to the final step here, which is tonight's public hearing. So the certificate of sufficiency, I've reviewed it as part of my investigation. and the applicable property information to determine whether the petition met the statutory requirements for the voluntary annexation. That review confirms several things. First, the petition contains an accurate description of the property proposed for annexation. The property is contiguous to the city's primary corporate limits. The petition was signed by the property owners and includes the required owner information as it is one sole person. Based on my review, I determined the petition was sufficient and I prepared the certificate of sufficiency. This is the corporate limits and it is contiguous, as you can see. This is the meets and bounds provided by a licensed surveyor. And this is the property map for the annexation. So next steps would be for the action is to consider the adoption of the ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the city of Southport to include the property. Just to bring everything back together, petition was received, reviewed, requirements met. I also had staff's review, circulated it through them to make sure there was no issues. Planning, zoning, police, fire, public works, and electric have all reviewed the request, and there are no conflicts or concerns. So the remaining is just up to the board tonight to consider the adoption of this.
Any questions for City Clerk from the board? You have a question?
No, I was going to make a motion. No.
We need to let, is anyone here from the public that would like to speak? Okay, all right. Have a motion to
Close public comment.
I'm sorry?
Motion to close
Yes,
public comment.
please.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're out of public hearing. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt, to adopt the ordinance annexing the property identified as 1501 North House Street, Southport, North Carolina, 28461, parcel number 221 MA03302 into the corporate city limits of Southport.
I have a motion. We have a second by Alderman Mosteller. Any further discussion?
It's already been a great addition to the city and the way you've improved on the property. We're very proud for you to be a part of the city. Thank you.
Yes, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda will be the annexation rezoning of 1501 North House Street. And this is interesting because it's in the county zoning, and it's, if you saw the acronym, it's commercial low density conditional zoning, and they want to go to highway commercial. And I'll call on Planning Director Maureen Meehan to begin this discussion, and I declare this public hearing open for the zoning map amendment.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the board. Yes, this is a zoning assignment for annexation. So when a property is transferred from one jurisdiction to another, zoning does not automatically occur. So once an annexation is finalized, the property has to be zoned within 60 days of the annexation, or there will be no zoning on the property. So as we know, this is currently the commercial low density with conditional zoning with the county. So this is the parcel that you can see, it's purple. The purple is the county zoning district. And to the right is our future land use map from the comprehensive plan. And it is designated as gateway on the future land use map. So they're requesting highway commercial for this property change. Previously, the property was within our extraterritorial jurisdiction. And prior to us getting it relinquished, it was zoned highway commercial at that time. So it has previously been highway commercial, and had we still had our ETJ, we wouldn't need to rezone it at this time. So we have a rendering of what the property owner has provided to us. Like I said, this is highway commercial zoning district is established for commercial uses that are not suitable to be adjacent to residential properties and include larger scaled uses that are auto oriented. The existing property, as we know, is about 1.4 acres, and there's an existing approximately 6,800 square foot building on the property, on site. Excuse me, and it is currently being upfitted for a showroom and retail business. Any retail operation with a floor area over 5,000 square feet is defined as a major retail operation, and those are only allowed in the highway commercial zoning districts. So the assignment of this property as highway commercial will not create any use or building nonconformities on site. The state requires the board to consider the comprehensive plan prior to any zoning. And again, this property is classified as gateway. And it identifies the character areas throughout the city, and it's descriptive, and they are not tied to any zoning district. So the gateway character is classified by medium-sized buildings that include retail, restaurants, and offices, excuse me, less than 30,000 square feet. So usually the existing uses cannot be considered for zoning, but since this is an assignment for an annexation, we can look at the use so that we don't create any non-conforming situations. So that's why we are allowed to look at what is there, because we can't downzone anything or create non-conformities with zoning. So upon consideration of the permitted uses for highway commercial, the existing uses within the vicinity of the property, and consideration of the 2050 land use plan, the planning board recommended assignment of business district to this property. Since the future land use map is gateway, and this is the entrance to the city, a welcoming corridor for visitors and citizens. While this is consistent with the corridor message within the comprehensive plan, it does create the non-conforming use. So staff is recommending the applicant's original request for highway commercial zoning.
Any questions for Ms. Meehan?
So Ms. Meehan, the owners requested the highway commercial, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Not for you, but if are the owners here, and do they want to say anything?
Purpose. It's a public hearing,
Yeah.
so anyone would like to speak, you're welcome to speak.
Good evening, Mayor and Aldermen. It is truly a pleasure to be in front of all of you this evening. Thank you also for helping us to become a part of the city. We've been here for over 21 years now. And the very first time we ever came to Southport, we knew that we wanted to be a part of Southport. And it's kind of evolved over time how that has happened. But yes, we are coming to you this evening asking that you please let us have that highway commercial zoning. As most of you know, we are also the owners of Coastal Painting and Improvements. We are going to be celebrating 20 years here very quickly, and we are in serious need of using this building to its capacity for us, for our business. We will be definitely having our offices there, but we are licensed general contractors. So we will be having selections there for not only our customers, but also for walk-ins as well. We are always striving to be good neighbors, and we really look forward to keeping this area of the corridor beautiful and welcoming. And I'm asking for your consideration for the highway use. Thank you.
I had the pleasure of sitting in the planning board meeting last month, and I was shocked that the recommendation was to create a non-conforming use. I mean, like 101 land use, right? You don't create non-conforming uses. And so that fact that our planning board recommended that was shocking. I think that a highway commercial makes a lot of sense. We've got someone who's gone above and beyond to come into the city. They requested highway commercial. It fits their intended use, doesn't create a nonconformity. I think we have only one option here, and that's to do exactly what staff's asking of us.
I tend to agree with you, Robert. That's very good comments.
I have a question for Mo, which is, I'm disappointed the planning board chairman or somebody who could speak for the planning board's not here to know their thinking on why they would choose business district instead of highway commercial.
It was specifically directly related to the comprehensive plan future land use map, that it is considered gateway, and they were thinking that the gateway should have some different lower intensity uses rather than the higher intensity that maybe could be changed later if it's highway commercial.
For the public's knowledge, for those who don't know, would you say what's next door to this building? That way, I think many people will immediately then recognize what the building is.
Yes, it's adjacent to Walgreens, and it's got the Wingate Hotel behind it. So there are some higher intensity uses at that corner of the highway, and it's right at the corner of North House Street and Highway 87.
And for a long time, it appeared to be just a boarded up, unpainted, exterior unpainted. If it ever been painted, that was gone. I always thought it was a derelict building, frankly. I don't know what it was used for.
For those of us that were here a long time, it was the old car drug building.
It just, how long? 15 years.
So at the planning board meeting, we were not given what the proposed use was. We were just asked to look at the zoning. And with the design that was going to be gateway, the feeling was bringing the business district there would be steer it towards more appealing businesses and more appealing uses. There was a discussion that there was the potential, given the size of the building, that a non-conforming use could come up. And the discussion was that the owners would probably then come to the board meeting and you would be given that use and you would then be able to have that additional information. Since we didn't know what the use was, we didn't know whether it be conforming or otherwise. And we just put forward what we thought would be the best for the beginning of the Gateway District.
Thank you. You all put a lot of thought in that, and I particularly appreciate your sensitivity to the Gateway area.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak from the public or? Please, yes.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. Because the building was highway commercial at one time, and because it is a gateway building, the area that the building is located in, that area needs help. And because the Walgreens next door has numerous parking spaces, and so does the hotel behind it, to not include this building and highway commercial, in my opinion, it fits perfectly where it is to the opening of our beautiful city. That area right now, you just pass by and there's no reason to stop or to definitely look at any of the other buildings that are in the area. And we are hoping to change that. We've already made significant changes. The one alleyway, the trees had grown over the alleyway so badly, which I was very surprised could be allowed just for overall safety reasons, but it was probably cut back, I'm going to say conservatively 16 feet. So we, again, intend to be amazing neighbors and to just make that area beautiful the way that it should be. And yes, ma'am, Alderman Lowe, we did have some homeless individuals that had, since we purchased the building, they would break in nightly. And since I was very hesitant to put windows in. But the windows are there, and we haven't had any other further issues. But it was being used as a area for homeless individuals to break into. So I did reach out to Todd. I did reach out to Chief Cornering to let him know, and we really appreciate them stepping up their patrols in that area. Thank you.
I just want to say that given all that has happened of late, I am grateful that these new owners are see the value of being part of Southport, and your request for voluntary annexation speaks volumes about your desire to truly be a part of this community. I'm amazed, and I invite everybody to frequent your business once you're open. And I certainly, because it was highway commercial when it was ETJ, our zoning was highway commercial. So, and it's an acre and a half. It's not just a small parcel. I know it looks like but it's right at an acre and a half. So.
Anyone else who would like to speak in public comment?
Motion to close comment?
That's right. I need a motion to close. A motion in a second. All in favor? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. We're out of the public hearing, and I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the land use consistency statement and statement of reasonableness.
Reasonableness, yes.
And we're learning all kinds of words this week. And the zoning map amendment as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Spencer. Any further discussion on this excellent project?
It doesn't clarify highway commercial, but the recommendation is highway commercial, correct? Okay. I don't see it in the motion. But
yes.
Perfect.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. Our next item is item 4. This is a public hearing. This is the rezoning of, let's see, 140 Sandy Lane. Used to be, when we heard Sandy Lane, it was about the pump station. So it's nice to hear something different associated with Sandy Lane. There's a nice aerial photo on page 196 that gives you a look of where that is. And this is a really good example of the importance of the City of Southport 2050 Comprehensive Plan and the future land use map. So I declare this public hearing open, and I call on Planning Service Director Maureen Meehan.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a conventional rezoning for property at 140 Sandy Lane. Kevin Henry, for property owner of Lewis Levinston, is requesting a zoning map amendment for a property that is zoned residential agricultural or R20 to highway commercial, that's HC. So the property, as you can see, is approximately 36,590 square feet, and there is a single-family home residence on the property. The adjacent properties are all zoned highway commercial or Brunswick County commercial low density. There is one small sliver that abuts the Turtle Bay subdivision planned unit development, but it's negligible. But it is there, and we notified them that the zoning change was happening. Other non-residential uses along Sandy Lane include the Murphy USA Gas and Convenience Store, the EcoShine Car Wash, and there's a Brunswick County lift station there. So the Highway Commercial District allows a mix of non-residential uses and does not allow residential uses. This request does not allow consideration of a specific use, but we have to consider all the allowable uses, the intent of the zoning district, and where it is being proposed. In this instance, that we are creating a non-conforming use, but that is allowable because the property owner is requesting this zoning change, so that won't be an issue at all. Again, we want to consider the comprehensive plan and future land use map. This parcel is designated as low-density residential on the future land use map. And if the designation is not consistent with the new zoning, the future land use map will be updated automatically. There doesn't have to be a second map amendment for the future land use map if the zoning change occurs. So then it would become highway commercial on the future land use map. So upon the review and request, considering the neighboring properties and the zoning districts of the area, the planning board has recommended approval of the zoning map amendment from R20 to highway commercial.
Any questions for Ms. Meehan?
I just want to state for the record that I did not see the owner's name until just now, and I have a personal relationship with the owner, so I'd like to state that there could be the appearance of a conflict.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the planning director on this? Okay, anyone from the public that would like to speak? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to
Close public comment.
Thank you. And a second. All in favor? Okay, public hearing is closed. And I will entertain a motion similar to the previous motion, if anyone would like to make it. Page 194, there's a motion.
I would make a motion to approve the land use consistency statement and statement of reasonableness and the zoning map amendment as presented.
And we have a motion and a second by Alderman Davis. So it goes from R20 to HC. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. Item 5. This is the Turtle Bay subdivision final plat amendment. This is a PUD, and the preliminary plat was approved by the board in 2024. And you can see from Highway 87 all the work that's been done there. This is a major event over there and project. So I call on Planning Director Maureen Meehan to lead the discussion.
Thank you. Yes, this is a request by Terry Ando for the 4 Turtle Bay subdivision. They're requesting a final plat approval for their subdivision. The property is located off of Highway 87, River Road, and it is just to the north of Rob Gandy Boulevard and south of Duke Energy. This is a 54-acre gated subdivision with 100 single-family lots. The developer has installed the required NCDOT road improvements, which include a right-hand deceleration turning lane and a left turn lane off of Highway 87. Infrastructure completed includes the certified road system and stormwater facilities, an emergency-only siren-activated gate, a mail kiosk cluster, mailbox, the road signage, lighting, and multi-use path through the open space areas throughout the subdivision. The required tree mitigation for the regulated live oaks that were removed for the infrastructure clearing is met. There was a requirement of 27 inches of mitigation. The native tree plantings at the entrance, at the mail kiosk, and throughout the common areas meets that, and it exceeds the required 27 inches of native trees that are planted from our planting list in the UDO. Each lot does remain vegetated, so they will then be cleared at the time of development when they receive their building permits. The developer chose to provide a multi-use path along one side of the street rather than sidewalks on both sides of the street to provide connectivity for the recreation and open space areas. To date, the developer has installed the pathway through all of the common and open areas, as I have mentioned, and they have also added pathways along lots 96 through 100, 18 through 22, and I have been told that tomorrow they're going to be pouring for lots 93 through 95 as well. So the applicant came to staff and requested a conditional approval for the final plat with the following conditions: that the multi-use pathway would be completed within 60 days of the final plat approval. If it's not complete, no building permits will be issued until completion of this installation, and staff will be monitoring the installation to ensure completion within the time frame. They request that building permits for lots 83, 85, and 94 be allowed to be issued prior to completion, and that certificates of occupancy will be held if the pathway is not completed. Mr. Ando and Mr. Weinbach are here. They are the developers. If you have any questions for them, or if you have any questions for me.
Okay. Any questions, board?
I'm just curious about why 83, 85, and 97.
They're lottery numbers and they're going to be winners.
Just because someone will ask at some
That's
point why they were pulled out from the rest.
First of all, good to see y'all again. It's been several years. Let's see, Mayor, when you do it. Those are reservations where people are relocating here. So we have a time frame to keep them if we can get their house built. And that's the reason why we just asked for those three. The walking path is the sidewalks that go in front of every one side of the road. We usually only put them under construction. That's why they were left off. But those, since we met with staff, we've already did about 1,200 linear feet of the 6,000 linear feet. And as Mo said, tomorrow we are pouring more. So we will have that done within 60 days, but we're just asking for those three. If y'all approve it tonight, sign and record it to get the subdivision going, and let's finish the rest of what we got to do and make it part of Southport.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve the final plat of Turtle Bay subdivision based on conformance with the previously approved preliminary plat and with the applicable standards of the City of Southport's Unified Development Ordinance, with the following conditions. Number one, the multi-use path will be completed within 60 days of approval of the final plat. In the event the walkway is not complete within the promised time frame, no building permits will be issued until completion and certification of installation. Staff will monitor the installation of the pathway to ensure completion within the set time frame. And number two, building permits for lots 83, 85, and 94 will be the only permits allowed to be issued prior to completion of the pathways. Certificates of occupancy for building permits issued after recordation of the final plat will not be issued if the pathway network is not complete.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Is there a second? We have a tie for a second, Alderman Kelly and Alderman Carroll. Any further discussion on this project? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. It's a beautiful, beautiful project out there. Thank you. All right. Next item on our agenda is the moratorium request for data centers. This is a fascinating topic. Seriously, I mean, there are over 3,000 data centers already in North Carolina, and almost 100, I mean, well, around in the country, and almost 100 either being built or active in North Carolina. So this is a huge, huge issue. It's where you get your Hulu, right? And your online banking and everything else. So anyway, I look forward to the discussion, and I'll call on Ms. Meehan.
Right. Good evening again. The staff and the planning board have been following the development trends and must proactively ensure that regulations are in place to meet the long-term goals and desired development patterns of Southport, while also preserving the health, safety, and welfare of citizens of Southport. Proposed land use standards for data centers were presented to the planning board at their July 16th meeting. And there was a discussion about the health and welfare of the citizens, the environmental impacts, and infrastructure needs that data centers require. A moratorium was considered after a list of issues was gathered to consider and research. And they didn't want to have a pressure of a data center potentially coming in with an application before any UDO standards could be adopted. General Statutes 160D 607 outlines the procedure for local governments to follow when considering a moratorium, which can be established by ordinance after an advertised public hearing. There are 4 statements that must be addressed prior to the establishment of a moratorium, and those are the statement of the problems or conditions necessitating the moratorium, what alternatives were considered, and what courses of actions were not considered to be adequate. You need to have a statement of the development approvals subject to the moratorium, which would be data centers in our case, how a moratorium will address the problems or conditions leading to the moratorium, a date for termination of the moratorium, and a statement setting forth why that duration is reasonably necessary. And then the last one is a statement of the actions and a schedule of those actions proposed to be taken by the local government. If the board chooses to consider a moratorium and set a public hearing, staff would be preparing these statements. And so all of 4 of those will be addressed and offer a draft ordinance for your consideration. The planning board and staff recommend, and specifically the planning board recommend that you will set a public hearing for September 10th to consider a 15-month moratorium on development permits for data centers to allow sufficient time to develop and adopt comprehensive land use standards. So I would like to just open up for discussion. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer those.
Any questions?
Just a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is a public hearing required
Yes, ma'am.
for a moratorium?
Yes.
Okay, never mind.
Anyone
So,
else?
so you're working on this ordinance
Yes.
to deal with, you cannot not address a property rights issue.
Correct.
Because if there isn't something addressed in our ordinance, it can be taken to the Board of Adjustment, and 3 or 4 individuals, like these folks earlier in the day, can make a decision that might be against what we would be interested in.
Correct.
Can they use that during the moratorium?
No. So during the moratorium, no one would be able to submit an application.
I've just dealt with this.
That's fine, yes.
Exhaustingly over the last couple of weeks for matters that have nothing to go and do with Southport, but moratoriums and data centers. So as long as an applicant hasn't submitted anything to the city related to a data center or otherwise would have a statutory vested right argument, then essentially it would put all of that on hold throughout the effective time frame of the moratorium.
Adjustment is, everything about it is being harmed by not having a standard for a certain product. That's their justification for going to the Board of Adjustment. So I have more on this, but let's.
Just technically, the agenda item, the proposed motion says September 13th. Should that be the 10th?
Yes.
I apologize.
We saw that. That's on that front page, on the back page, where the motion is
All right, thank you.
correct, September
Yes,
10th.
that's all. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to set a public hearing for September 10th, 2026 to consider a 15-month moratorium on development permits for data centers.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Kelly and a second by Alderman Carroll concerning the 15-month moratorium on data centers. Any further discussion?
Questions, and I believe Alderman Carroll does too. This is for you. Has there been even a hint of any interest in a data center here?
No.
Okay. Where in Southport, within our jurisdiction, would one of these massive data centers go? I could see some places where it might go. Somebody was mentioning out in the neighborhood of Duke Power, closer to the river perhaps, but that ain't us.
Agreed, that we don't have a large amount of land, and it may not be one of the large scale data centers, but there are smaller ones at much smaller scales that are coming into smaller areas. Would they consider Southport? We don't know. And that's why we need to be prepared in case something does come. You're welcome.
I think that being prepared is exactly what we're trying to do here. Mo, I would like to apologize on behalf of everyone that you took so much heat for this. It was not, it did not come from you. I think that it was, in fact, my idea to start looking at data centers, and I was a warrior online and vocally to try and get people to stop saying it was you, because it was in fact not, and I apologize that that happened to you. So that's the only other thing I wanted to say about that.
Thank you. Let me adjust my tech mobile.
There, that's right. Did you get that recording? That's good. There is the possibility that there is a data center that could be individually put onto a house. They're discussing things like that. So we've got a lot of areas. It's not just industrial. It could be very small based, multiple daisy chain type of things. I agree we're going to do the moratorium, and we need to learn a lot about what we're facing. But I don't want to be a complete naysayer, because I'm a product of a military base that ships bombs. And that's how I'm still here. So there has to be a balance of business and personal. And so I want to hear the different elements. And that's why I'm willing to go along with the moratorium for the 15 months, whatever.
The conversation that the planning board had was, it was pretty impressive, honestly. This was one of those times where I was like very proud of them. We've got a wealth of knowledge on that board right now for this very thing. And so I think that as we move forward with this, you know, Southport may not be, but we need to think about what's around us. I think we often forget that the Port Authority owns a substantial amount of land here. Yep. The state's not just going to let that land go away for no reason. They're not going to just, you know, put it into conservation. So certainly those are the kinds of things we need to have conversations with our state legislators about as we move forward, because it could be a port, it could be a data center hub, it could be all of these things. So while we're working to protect Southport, we need to look outside as well, and that's an example.
And the size of those data centers will decrease as the technology improves, and they can be in smaller areas and that type thing. You think about what the computers used to look like in the 70s, and now you hold it in your hand. So anyway, we have a motion and a second for the moratorium. Any further discussion before we vote? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is it was kind of ironic to me, because we went from moratorium on data centers to artificial intelligence software discussion. I'll call on Alderman Spencer.
So it's not as much of it's the description of this is not necessarily just software. We need to develop a responsible plan for using artificial intelligence within the city of Southport. This is a technology that's no longer something that may arrive in the future. It's already here. Some of our employees are building some of the presentations that you see here are being built by our employees with ChatGPT and other mechanisms. But I think that they're using their own personal accounts to produce these things. We've seen where the finance department is using some AI tools, and it's made a big difference in their work. These examples are benefits, but they also demonstrate why the city needs a policy. Employees need to know what information may be entered into an AI platform, which platforms are approved, how AI generated information is verified, and which records must be retained. confidential personal information, financial information, protected citizen information, other sensitive materials should never be placed in unapproved public AI systems. AI should not replace the judgment, experience, and accountability of our employees, but it should be used as a tool to make them more effective. It can help draft routine documents, organize information, summarize lengthy materials, even make an alderman like me sound like I know what I'm talking about. It'll assist with research, answer common questions, automate repetitive administrative work. We do need qualified employees to maintain responsible review over these products, especially when it involves statutes, finance, contracts, personnel, safety, and advice from the board. I'm already working on a software with the cemetery committee, and this is really what led me to bring this to you. We're trying to bring that cemetery software into the city's ownership, and there's still some things that need to be done. The members of the cemetery committee wanted to reimburse me for the time that I had done my work, and I do not want that to happen, but we're trying to convert it to where we're now working together with a platform together rather than me at home building something. So this is a conversation not only about our employees, but how we'll administer this amongst ourselves to use the tools that are available with AI. And again, we've got a lot of pressure from people that want us to control the budget and cut cost. And I think this is a way that can do that. I will acknowledge that there is a other side to that. You can automate everything and never have to deal with a human being again. And I don't think that we're wanting to do that. The main focus here and the motion that I would like to put in front of us is to direct the city manager and staff to consult UNC School of Government and other North Carolina municipalities that are developing artificial intelligence policies. Evaluate appropriate government and enterprise AI platforms that are relying on employees' personal accounts. Prepare a proposed policy addressing security, confidentiality, public records, record retention, verification of information, employee training, acceptable uses, prohibited uses, and human oversight. Fourth, we identify a small number of low-risk pilot projects, including the cemetery database and website, where we can measure cost savings, staff time saved, accuracy, and improvement in public service. So those are in the form of a motion, and I can repeat those. Interact with School of Government, evaluate the appropriate platforms that we should use, build policies of security, and then also report these findings back to the board in 90 days. So I make that as in the form of a motion to send to staff to develop this. Yes, and I will mention that I think that the president today has forbidden Anthropic from being used in the federal government. I think that's more for creating autonomous weapons, and I don't think we'll be doing that here. But there is some good and bad to it. And we've got to deal with it today. We can't keep putting it off and say, oh, we'll handle it tomorrow, because I think it's going to be a fast running thing that comes upon us. So I'd like to start addressing it and put that in Noah's hands. Otherwise, I think that's all I have to say about that.
So we have a motion. Is there a second? And we have 2 seconds. That's perfect, Alderman Kelly and Alderman Mosteller.
I'll just briefly say that I've had the occasion to talk with Alderman Spencer on several occasions about this, and I think he's spot on in having us develop a policy. Staff uses it some now, so I think by creating this policy, have a framework for staff, look at what our options are as far as pricing and the safety mechanisms around that. But I think it can definitely help staff, the board, and our community as we go forward. So I think this is a good effort to move us forward in this AI era for sure.
Any other comments? They call it artificial intelligence, and I've always wanted to call it accentuated intelligence. It's really not artificial. It's real, and it accentuates. So anyway, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Our next item is the update on the Wilmington Harbor Section 403 project, proposed dredging of the Cape Fear River, and I'll call on Mayor Pro Tem Karen Mosteller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I asked to have this placed on the agenda because the Corps is preparing to transmit its final letter report and final environmental impact statement to the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works. This is an important point in the federal process. The Wilmington Harbor project was conditionally authorized by Congress in 2020, and the final letter now recommends that those conditions be considered satisfied. Once transmitted, the project moves toward the record of decision and final assessment, a decision point that can clear the way toward design, funding, and ultimately construction. So that's why I think it's important for us to talk about this now. Included in the agenda was the Orton Plantation and the Bald Head Island statements, and that they have recently asked the Corps to address significant economic, engineering, environmental, and regulatory questions before the federal decision is made. Supporting Orton and Bald Head Island's statements about this does not mean that we are asking to reject the project. It simply means that the Corps not cross this decision threshold until the record is complete and the outstanding questions have been addressed. This would not represent a change in our position. In February, we joined 9 other Lower Cape Fear municipalities and cultural resources in asking that the Wilmington Harbor project not move forward without updated economic analysis, credible environmental safeguards, and a comprehensive funded monitoring and adaptive management plan. The recent Orton and Bald Head Island submissions provide additional technical support for many of those same concerns, including questions about the 1.3 benefit cost ratio, container forecasts, long-term costs, shoreline impacts, engineering uncertainties, and unresolved environmental regulatory issues. Again, this is not opposing the Port of Wilmington. Our regional statement simply expressly supports responsible maritime infrastructure that strengthens North Carolina's economy. This is about being consistent with the position we've already taken and protecting Southport's interests. In the documents in our packet, they specifically recognize potential impacts on Southport's waterfront and throughout the Lower Cape Fear. This is also consistent with our comprehensive plan, which directs us to protect the Cape Fear River and our waterfront and protect natural resources, plan for resilient infrastructure, and participate regionally when decisions outside of Southport may affect our environment, economy, infrastructure, and character. For those reasons, I'm asking for consensus of our board on 3 things. First, we resubmit our February joint regional statement. Second, that we express Southport's support for the recent Orton Plantation and Bald Head Island submissions. And third, address our submission directly to Major General Jason E. Kelly and ask that Southport be included in any further regional discussion with the Corps before this project advances. So that's my ask.
That's your motion.
Yeah, that's,
yes.
And really that's in the form of a motion.
Yes, yes. Is it in a second by Reverend Alderman Lowe Davis. Any further discussion on this interesting environmental and economic topic? All right, we'll go for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Alderman Mosteller, for that discussion on that. Alderman Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I continue to enjoy my time as liaison to the ABC board.
Yeah.
I think I've got one of the best assigned liaisons. I've been really impressed with the way the R store operates efficiently, effectively. It's in the top 2 in Brunswick County in gross sales. Overall statewide, however, ABC sales seems to be down. Our July 26 versus July 27 sales were down about 0.5%. We, myself, as well as our ABC board members, remain concerned about legislative initiatives. On one side, and I may have these backwards, the Senate wants to privatize ABC sales. On the House side, there's lobbying to move mixed drinks already in cans that are 9% alcohol or less to the grocery stores, which would also impact our gross sales and potentially the revenues that we receive from our ABC store. So I just wanted to bring those two to your attention. Also, the ABC board asked me to convey and clear up a little bit of a misunderstanding. During our budget deliberations this year, our city manager brought out the revenues from the ABC store were being reduced from approximately 570,000 to 264,000 or so. That is true to some extent. However, I want to bring to your attention that there was some miscommunication between the ABC store and Southport City Hall back in June of 2026, when the ABC store conveyed to City Hall that their budget was only going to contribute $315,000 to City Hall and not 570-some thousand. Somehow that communication got lost, of no fault of anybody here at this table. There was a lot of changes going on in City Hall at the time, but the ABC board felt that they were somewhat being unfairly blamed for this significant drop in revenues from one year to the next, when in fact their budget in 2026 dropped from 570 some to 315, and now this year from 315 to about 264, which is a reduction of about 50-60,000, not the 300 some thousand. So we've pledged, and one of the things I did this year is when the ABC board passed their budget, I hand delivered it to Noah and to make sure that the communications were there. So we could make sure we included the correct amount in the projected revenues. And that's all I have from the ABC board. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Spencer.
Our Board of Adjustment was canceled, so that's good. That's my least favorite. It's never a fun time at the Board of Adjustment, but we did have a cemetery committee, and there was an appointment of Mr. Ashley as chairman and Ms. Tish Hayden as co-chair. So we have good leadership on the cemetery committee, and we're excited that we have a budget to work with. And we appreciate you for allowing us to have something to deal with. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you. Alderman Kelly.
So the 4th of July Festival fundraising is going on still on September 6th from noon to 5 at Old Baldy Lighthouse on Bald Head. There's going to be a Battle of Fort George block party. You can go to the NC 4th of July Festival Facebook page or oldbaldy.org/Fort George to get more information about it. But it's going to be a really fun party, and that whole weekend there are going to be reenactments and things going on Bald Head. So it's a fun thing for 4th of July Festival committee to partner with Bald Head to continue fundraising for the festival. So get your tickets. They're available now.
And if you can't find them, use AI to print one, right? There we go. Reverend Alderman Lowe Davis.
Well, I am without a committee now. I was liaison to the Historic Preservation Commission. So I would like to use my time to ask Alderman Gross 2 questions. If we're not number 1, who is? Leland?
Leland has 2 stores. So between their 2 stores, they're number 1 now.
Okay. Second, if grocery stores can sell the cans with how much alcohol content?
Up to 9%.
How is that going to be enforced? The grocery stores all have self-checkout? Who's going to make sure that the sales are to people who are legally eligible to buy booze?
I think that's an excellent question. I think the grocery stores are going to be challenged. They're going to have to recognize the difference between the Diet Mountain Dew and a 9% alcohol drink when somebody goes through the checkout. But that's an excellent question. And
I can speak to that.
Go ahead.
Their UPC codes actually put a flag on their checkout system, so it won't let you complete the checkout until a staff member goes over and verifies an ID.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Alderman Kelly.
Good. Alcohol question. Good. Alderman Carroll.
Parks and Rec continues to meet at the JC building, and currently our city manager is acting as the staff liaison, or the department head, if you will, and it's doing a great job. We have the Southport Annual Children's Crab Derby coming up September 7th at 9 a.m. There was question about whether or not that was going to happen, and before I had too much time to question it, we had the answer. So very excited about that. Forestry is still doing their tree survey. So you might see them out in lime green shirts that say Forestry. They're great, right? I got one. I took one. And so really exciting to see just how many public trees we have and how well they're documenting those trees. So that's all I have.
Excellent. Alderman Mosteller.
Thank you, Mayor. The Beautification Committee usually takes a break from their monthly workshops in July and August. However, Generations Church reached out and asked to be of service. This created an opportunity for a volunteer cleanup pop-up session on July 11th. With 45 members of Generations Church offering to lend a hand, the Southport Beautification Committee decided on 5 major projects. Number 1, raking, pruning, and leaf pickup in the old Smithville burying ground. With the help of some of the volunteers, 60 bags of leaves were collected, as well as large piles of brush, giving the burying ground some much needed attention. Number 2, other volunteers worked at the John N. Smith Cemetery, raking and removing pine straw and fallen leaves. The Fort Johnston building was also got some love, with the volunteers raking and bagging leaves around the building. The cleanup continued from the Garrison Lawn to Waterfront Park and along Bay Street to the end of Bay Street, picking up fine debris and litter. And lastly, the volunteers completed the construction of 4 new Adirondack chairs that will be added to the Garrison Lawn for sitting and enjoying the river. In addition to thanking Generations Church for participating in the special cleanup, we would also like to give a big shout out to Cameron Smith from CL Smith Construction Incorporated, known to many in town as Cam Smith. The Beautification Committee wants to thank Cam for his generosity in donating all the lumber, hardware, and paint for the new Adirondack chairs. Our community is better for these donations and the work of these volunteers. The regularly scheduled cleanups will resume in September, so please mark your calendar for Saturday, September 5th, and plan to join us at 9 a.m. on Rhett Street behind the old jail. And that's it. There will not be a meeting in August of the board. Thank you.
Mayor,
Thank you.
Mayor, I apologize. Ms. Musser, thank you so much. Ms. Lynn Guyman instructed me to make sure we identified that group from Generations, and I missed it in my report, and you saved me. So I will not be in trouble when I see Ms. Lynn. Thank you so much. We are grateful for those people that came and participated, and we're going to work on some events with the cemetery in the future. So thank you, sir.
Excellent. Excellent. Great reports. Thank you, board. Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. The Southport Police Department will be launching a new Safer Southport campaign in the coming weeks. in response to community input. Many expressed the need and desire to have more police presence and enforcement downtown in our business districts. So you'll see our officers out and about more downtown with education and enforcement initiatives to keep Southport safe. Also, as has been briefly discussed tonight, the police department has also seen an uptick in concerns and complaints regarding e-bikes. So that's something that Chief Coring is carefully looking at to how we can safely utilize those in town, but while keeping everybody safe. So he'll continue to look at that and look at any ordinance or policy updates that we might need to see. Tomorrow, the police department will also be hosting the Cram the Cruiser event at Walmart for our students that'll be going back to school. So that's tomorrow, August 14th at Walmart from 9 a.m. to noon. So come out in support of our students for school supplies. As Alderman Carroll said, we're excited to have the Crab Derby on September the 7th, beginning at 9 a.m. at the city dock. So we encourage those to sign up before the event, or also come out if you can't sign up beforehand. I'd like to thank our city clerk, Tori Davini, for helping us organize this event, and you can contact her with any questions about that event, but we look forward to that coming up this Labor Day holiday. Public Works continues to do a great job in helping us with our stormwater issues and looking at small stormwater projects they've been able to do. Recently, they were able to fix the stormwater pipe and project at Moore Street and Lord Street. And they have also identified a project that they will be working on over the next several weeks at East Bay Street and downtown at Davis as well. That is 80 foot of broken stormwater pipe that they'll be working on to fix in the coming weeks to help our stormwater system where they can. Also, on a personal privilege note, yesterday marked my 2-year anniversary with the city. Time does go by quickly, so I'm just grateful to continue to be here, to have this awesome opportunity to sit here as manager and lead our great staff and help the board and our community move forward. So when the board selected me as manager, I told you that we had many challenges ahead of us, but equal and greater opportunities. And a year and a half later, I still believe that we are able to overcome our challenges and move our city forward. So I continue to be grateful to sit here as your manager and to work with you to lead our city forward. So I look forward to many more years to come to be a part of the Southport team. So I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. In fact, that was one of my points, the city manager being here 2 years. Isn't that great? Very quickly, I did a mayor's video update today. I'm trying to do one every month. And what we talked about, and I want to thank Cheyenne Ketchum. Thank you for doing the video. First Lady, thank you for being there. And the manager was there also. And what we're trying to do is to get information out to our citizens. And we talked about the 4 pillars that we build on in Southport. And the first pillar, public health, public safety, emergency preparedness, the environment. And we've talked about all of that tonight. Think about some of the issues that we've talked about. Briefly, I talked about HPC and how what we had on the agenda tonight. The CIP, we're using acronyms so people would understand what they are, and I explained them, the capital improvement program. And what this is, the project list, is a dynamic process. It's goals, it's principles, it's a strategic plan, it's an outline. It's not something that has to be done. It's something that we're trying to do. So I wanted our citizens to understand that. And I also talked about EMS, emergency medical services, and we have a triangle of emergency preparedness, our police, our fire, and our EMS. And that is just crucial. We need a broader funding, and I recommend that we have a town hall this fall to talk about emergency preparedness and EMS and other related issues, because seconds and minutes matter, and response times matter, and our local EMS matters. So there's been talk of disbanding EMS and having the county take it over. So we really need to have this discussion. So we'll have a town hall this fall. I had a local mayors meeting August 5th. It's always a pleasure to discuss issues with these mayors. something coming up on Sunday, something great, the 160th anniversary of St. James AME Zion Church. We plan to attend that. Celebration will be this Sunday. Again, the 50th anniversary of Franklin Square Gallery, August 23rd, 1 to 4 p.m. In the newsletter, they profiled Jonathan Bullard. Great young man. He's a captain on the EMS and fire. Also, for our football fans, August 29th, Alderman Spencer will be interested in this. NC State plays Virginia, and UNC will be playing TCU on television, as will Alderman Groves will be interested in the NC State game. Best wishes to all students who return to school. Labor Day, September 7th. Wish everyone a happy Labor Day. And thank you for this excellent meeting tonight. Staff reports are in your packet. And now we'll go to item N, board comments. Alderman Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In keeping with our fiduciary responsibilities to be good stewards of our city's resources, I began a preliminary conversation with Noah this week, asking him, when was the last time we've evaluated our electrical system and our electrical contract? I'd like to invite the board to join with me and ask for a study of our electrical system. It is my understanding that we're a part of a co-op called Electricities. I believe they're headquartered out of Rocky Mount. Approximately 30 cities are involved. Our contract with Electric Cities expires 2043. However, we can opt out by 2035, but we must give notice by July 1 of 2027, which will be here before you know it. Now, I'm not suggesting that we don't have the best deal now for our citizens, but I think it is our fiduciary responsibility to compare what we're getting in our contract with Electricities versus what we might get with BEMC, Brunswick Electric Membership Co-op. I don't know if there's other co-ops or other alternatives, but I do think it's worth exploring just to see if we need to stay with Electricities through 2043, or do we need to opt out and go with someone else that gives us a better value as a city. There was an incident recently, and it had nothing to do with my request to NOAA, just to evaluate where we're at. And I'm not saying that I'm for leaving Electricities. I'm just simply saying we need a study to see, are we getting the best value for our citizens? But a neighbor of mine needed to do a disconnect and a reconnect recently, and he called BEMC, and he was quoted, and he was asking like 2 days in advance, and it was going to be during the daytime. And he asked him how much a disconnect and reconnect was going to be, and he was quoted $35. And then when he gave him the address, the person on the phone said, "Oh, you live in the Southport city limits. That'll be $350. So that was just an incident that brought to my attention. We do need to evaluate what we're getting with Electricities versus what perhaps BEMC might offer. Actually, they told him, had Southport been a co-op member with BEMC, the disconnect reconnect would have been $35. But because we live in Southport and are not co-opted with BEMC, it was $350. Anyway, that's just one example. But we do need to look into and evaluate our electrical contract with Electricities and see if that's the best, if we're getting the best bang for our buck.
Alderman Spencer.
Mayor, I first of all want to thank our clerk, Tori, for my new shirt. Now, don't think that we get a lot of these. This is my third in 6 years, and I promise to keep coffee away from this one. So very proud of my new swag, and thank you, Tori, for getting me a shirt that I can wear. I did send Levi to school yesterday, It was a very painful experience. But I did wear my red shirt onto the campus of UNC Chapel Hill and delivered my child to Sodom and Gomorrah itself. But beyond that, we're very proud of Levi. And I've got to go home, and Renee is at home probably wearing out the crying towel right now because she's tracking every move he's making. Finally, and again, I'm taking advantage of my position here, but I have to honor someone. Tomorrow morning, my mother and I will ride to Fayetteville to bury her only brother. He was 96 years old. His name was Quincy Jackson Scarborough Jr., and he was in Fayetteville. And he was a diverse individual. I knew him as Uncle Jack. And there's something special about being one of the few people in the world that call you a certain thing. So anytime I called him, he knew who it was. And it's going to be hard to move on. And it's like everything else. I want to honor his name and please be with us in prayer as we travel here this weekend. And that's it.
Thank you. Beautiful tribute. Alderman Kelly.
Getting ready to prepare to send the kids back to school. Both are going to be at South Brunswick this year, so I'm excited to have two children at the same school for the first time in a very long time. But first, I have to head up north to go pick them up from summer camp. So I am heading out this weekend and will return on Monday with two kids who sent me very funny letters from camp. We'll say that. So excited to get to see my kids again. It's been a few weeks now, and I'm excited to get them back down here. So, and Grayson has been sailing, so I'm excited to get him out to sail with me on the river down here too. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you. Reverend Alderman Lowe Davis.
Many of you know I used to live and work in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the land of enchantment. And in Albuquerque, the river Rio Grande goes right through Albuquerque. My son and his family still live there, so I get regular reports. This is about data centers. There are 9 data centers that have been built upriver. And, you know, Mexico is vast amounts of undeveloped land. Well, my son told me Sunday that there's no water in the Rio Grande. And, you know, Rio Grande says Great River. There's no water, literally no water. Now, there's several other contributing factors. There's no snow in the mountains either to supply the water. But even before the problems with no snow, the river was drying up. And this has been, you know, it starts to get worse and worse and worse as you go down the river. So data centers, not always a good thing.
Definitely a lot of local pushback I've seen on the news. So it's, yes. Alderman Carroll.
Just to reiterate Noah's point, Southport Police Department back to school drive, Cram the Cruiser is taking place tomorrow from 9 to noon at Southport Walmart. Items needed include notebooks, pencils, paper, folders, markers, glue, crayons, binders, and backpacks. That's tomorrow from 9 to noon. To Alderman Gross's comments as it relates to our electrical system, I think we need to evaluate its value. You know, we've understanding what it's worth if we were to sell it. So that's something that we should take into consideration as we're working through all of that. I don't know who we would hire to evaluate it, but I think it'd be a good idea for us to do that.
Alderman Mosteller.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to take just a few minutes to share a recent experience. I wish more people were in the audience, but I want this to be in the record. I'm in my 11th year serving on this board. Every year, citizens come to public comment to thank our EMS staff and advocate for continued support of our EMS department. Those comments are almost always rooted in personal experience, a sudden health crisis, a terrifying moment, and immense gratitude for the quick response and life-saving professionalism of Southport EMS. In the past, as much as I was able to empathize with their stories, it is different now. Now I am one of them. A week and a half ago, I stood in my living room and I called 911 because my partner was having a stroke. When I attended the fire academy 2 years ago, part of the curriculum included videos of real life fires. We watched buildings become completely engulfed in flames in just a matter of minutes. That is when I learned a phrase that has stuck with me ever since. Minutes matter. Standing in my living room calling 911, I was acutely aware that every single minute mattered. When dispatch sent the call, Southport's EMS arrived at my house in 3 minutes. Minutes matter. 7 minutes later, the ambulance was pulling away with us in it. Minutes matter. In 2022, Southport expanded our EMT program to include paramedic positions. That decision allowed our emergency services to provide advanced life support, such as administering intravenous medications, cardiac monitoring, and advanced airway management, directly on scene and in transit, because minutes matter. While in direct communication with the neurological team at New Hanover, paramedic Paul Homick, assisted by EMT firefighter Tandem Hamilton, immediately initiated the critical stroke protocols that a paramedic is certified to administer. I always say in our small town, it is better because of the extraordinary spirit of volunteerism we have in our community. On this night, our police chief, Todd Coring, was volunteering with EMS. In a crisis, it means the world when you recognize the faces coming through your door to help you. That is what community feels like. Todd drove the ambulance and we arrived in New Hanover in 29 minutes. Minutes matter. The neurological trauma team stepped out as we arrived, and that life-altering treatment continued seamlessly. Our outcome is a celebrated textbook case of modern stroke protocol that could have been very different if our community did not have the level and quality of emergency services that we have today. As a member of this board, I have sat through 11 budget cycles. Lately, there has been conversation questioning whether we should pay for our own municipal EMS services when our residents are already paying county taxes, asking why we shouldn't simply just let the county have it. I understand the question, but geography tells the real story. Brunswick County spans over 1,000 square miles. Southport is roughly 4 square miles. There is simply no physically possible way for a countywide system covering an area that vast to provide our town with the same localized, immediate level of response that Southport EMS delivers. The health and safety of our community is our #1 priority. After subtracting the revenue generated by the rescue squad fees and the appropriated fund balance and accounting for additional fire fees in this year's budget, the cost of our emergency medical services department accounts for 7.4% of our general fund appropriated revenues. There is a profound amount of gratitude in my house today because of Paul Homick, Tandem Hamilton, Todd Coring, and Southport EMS. And I will tell you, when you are standing in your living room, watching someone you love face a medical emergency, knowing that minutes matter That 7.4% is a bargain every single one of us would gladly pay. That's all I got.
Beautiful testimonial, and we're glad it worked out so well. It's amazing what stroke treatment, how it has developed. The technology is there, and the fact that New Hanover and Avant has been developing that program for years. And it is a blessing, not a blessing to have a stroke, but it's a blessing if you can get there on time. And I think you underestimate the fact that you were there, that you were at home, made all the difference. And that was the most important thing. So God bless both of you, and just so proud of our EMS, and we'll look forward to the town hall when we hold that this fall. Next up is a closed session. Statute 143-318.11. This is to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged. And it's also to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee. So a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. All in favor? Okay, we'll go into closed session.
the other motion.
Everyone here? Okay. All right, we need a motion to come out of closed session. Motion by Minnie and seconded by Minnie. All right, we're out of closed session and I'll call on the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would ask the board for a motion to adopt and accept the settlement agreement that we discussed in closed session and authorize myself, the city manager, to execute such agreement.
So move.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Okay, all in favor? Motion,